It helps me bring the product to you, my loyal subscribers and the people who are paying attention.
Exactly. Well, it's good to speak with you again.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Big day.
uh, Big day, big day.
I'll tell you what,
I
I was
guess,
already getting mad before my call with you as I was waiting for you to finish up your walk. I was starting to read that brief and I was just like, stewing. I hate them. I can't believe the state and what they're trying to pull in this new brief.
I,
So,
you know,
I
I,
mean,
I, I, I haven't read the full thing yet. I think it's about 45 pages or so, but
I haven't
um,
read the full thing either, but Jerry Buting made a very interesting comment when he was summing it up. And it and judging by the first 10 pages that I just read,
yeah,
he sounds like he's got it right on the dot. It sounds like he's right on the money. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, what they're trying to do now is to say, um, number one, he doesn't meet the AEDPA requirements, blah, 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 blah. They're all going about, first of all, they lean all really hard on the AEDPA, just as they have been doing all throughout this process, right? So they lean
yes,
hard on that. And then the new twist is that some of the tactics used against Brendan might have been coercive. But that's for a matter of new law. And therefore blah 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 blah. So they're now basically trying to say either you deny it because of AEDPA, or the remedy is to create new law to protect this from happening to kids in the future, like Brendan or whatever, which would then screw Brendan. You
correct.
understand? So that
Yeah,
they're trying to steer it towards either of those two things, because those two things screw Brendan and keep him locked up and help them maintain this slipping hold that they have on the Avery and Dassey. Basically that's the way I look at it. But I mean,
yeah.
it's yeah. Go ahead. I'd love to hear what
That's
you
the
think.
way it's kind of how I thought of it as well. In fact, Jerry Buting, I think I raised this point when we last spoke. Jerry Buting in his book refers to
Which I
courts
plan
or,
to read on the plane to the rally, by the
oh, good.
way.
Um, he says, and I think I quoted it in the last video, that for some people, innocence isn't enough to warrant someone being free. Um,
Right.
and he's referring to courts and
Right.
judges and
No,
people.
I know
And to
exactly
me,
what he means. Yeah.
and that thing in today's submission is about that. They're saying, well, maybe he was coerced, but you know what? That wasn't the law in their view, at least. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, you're actually making an admission that he was coerced.
Yeah.
Whether you want to argue technicalities, that's another matter. But you're actually putting out there the possibility that if you find that he was coerced, and it's
Mm-hmm.
possible, it's possible, just possible, that he was, then
Mm-hmm.
sorry, you missed the deadline. That was the previous law, right?
Right.
How
Yeah.
how about let's just go into the issue of a human being and their innocence and focus on that
How about
rather than
how about should a state or a police agency or whatever law enforcement agency be able to do what they did to Brendan and have it
yes,
be considered perfectly okay and not a problem? And
yes,
should it be continued to be thought of that way? That's the
yes,
question really for me. And
yeah,
and that's what I'm hoping the Supreme Court will address by reasserting what special care is. And
yes,
what's going to happen is the appellate court is going to take a hit on this. They really should have gone into a little more detail with this confession, because this confession is convoluted and crazy and weird. They should have gone into some kind of they should have given some kind of an indication that they actually saw and read it.
yes,
Instead of writing a brief little summary of it that doesn't even mention Dassey's age. It doesn't get mentioned in conjunction with the review of the confession until they are summing up in their summary of argument,
yes,
basically.
yes,
So then the age gets mentioned in conjunction with evaluating the confession, but in the actual segment of the judgment or whatever where they're talking about the actual confession, age never gets mentioned. Age is one of the biggest factors, and to
yes,
go a step beyond that if you can make the leap, whoever this person you're talking about that makes the leap, saying yes, okay, he was coerced, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's innocent, right? But the thing is if you can make the leap to say he was coerced, then you're basically halfway there. You should see right there that this kid did not give any pertinent facts. That the only thing that they're saying that he offered is things that couldn't have been proven. There's things that are absolutely unprovable. Even to the fact that they found no trace of Teresa at the Avery salvage yard, save the bullet. The bullet that they find 3 months later after this very strange-looking confession with Brendan. Yes. And to add a further point, to those who would say that Tom Fassbender and Mark Uyghur didn't know that Brendan was, a little bit limited mentally or whatever. You are an idiot. Don't even talk to me because you are an idiot. They had a whole weekend with that kid. Okay? These are detectives. They're trained to sum people up in seconds. Yes. They are trained to sum people up very quickly because that's their job. They have to. And if they don't sum people, if they're bad at doing that, then they're not good at their job and they aren't detectives anymore. Right? So to suggest that in an entire weekend they got no inkling of this kid's suggestibility is laughable, ridiculous, shameful to anybody who tries to claim that crap, because it is crap. Yeah. I mean, but to get off my soapbox, that's what I got to say about that.
Well, I mean, I guess we've got 10 days for Brendan's team to respond to that little scrap of paper that was submitted today.
Right.
Did we, forgive me if I should know this, did we get any amicus briefs to go with it at all?
As far as I know, I don't know. I didn't see it. All I saw was I went on Facebook and there was a what's it called? A notification from Jerry Buting where he had posted the decision. I'm sure if there was an amicus brief, it would be floating around, and one of us would have seen it. I would think. I unfortunately just got home from work like about 25 minutes ago, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to look around. But the
roosters have only just stopped crowing here, so
so morning time.
But a little bit of the weird part of who I am, I would like to see an amicus brief or two from their side, because it would just be humorous. That's why I would like.
I'm actually interested to see who wants to stick their neck out to support the state of Wisconsin versus Brendan Dassey. I'd love to see it. God, me too. I'm just fascinated by this whole thing. I mean, I'm just waiting to see who is going to want to try to clash with the weight of the 6 amicus briefs that were filed in favor of Brendan. I mean, the stats of... I keep saying this because it echoes in my head ever since I read that amicus brief. When the Innocence Projects got together to talk about how many wrongful convictions, or how many of wrongful convictions had false confessions, and when they got down to the mentally limited juveniles that had been wrongfully convicted, 8 out of 10 gave a false confession. 8 out of 10. Yes. I mean, that is a staggering number. That is an absolutely staggering number. And to look at Brendan's confession and to know that statistic, I mean, and then you look at the other things that they point out, how they point out the point in the interview where Brendan point blank tells them that he's been guessing at what they want. I mean, he just says it right out in the open. He just says it. I've been guessing at what you want. They don't want to. They don't even stop there for a second. They move right to the next subject real quick to move right past that because they don't want him to start talking about it. You know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, crazy, dude. But he actually tells them. We all know that's what he was doing. It's obvious that that's what he was doing. Especially the thing about her being shot in the head. That is the most obvious. Demonstration or illustration of it, but it was happening with other stuff all throughout that confession.
Exactly.
It's just a mess.
he was so I'm going to say, I don't know whether fear is the right word. I think it's partially that. He was so intimidated by the
Oh,
environment. All he
certainly.
wanted to do was to please these senior people of authority and say things that they wanted him to say because he thought that would be good for him,
Yes.
because that's how they led him. And just
There,
like
yeah.
in your very important issue about the control question, when they're
Yeah.
trying to catch him out, right?
Yeah.
When Tom Fassbender asks him, "Do you disagree with me?" And he says,
Right.
which is, you know, these are
He
issues where
actually says
suddenly,
no to the disagreeing. He
yeah, which
actually
is
does say no.
the
But he says
bit,
at
right?
first. See, that's the thing about the control question that kills me. Is
Yeah,
why did Fassbender go the extra step? He got what he wanted out of Brendan from the first answer. He
yeah,
asked, "Did she?" Brendan says, which
hmm,
means, that's because she actually didn't have it. It was a fake fact. So that's what
yeah,
they wanted him to say. Fassbender goes a step further. Why does he go that step further? And asks, and he asks that question, "Do you disagree with me?" That immediately puts Brendan on the defensive, because it's been happening the entire, whole interrogation, that he now thinks, "Oh my God, he's going to tell me I'm lying. He's going to tell me to be truthful. He's going to tell me to be honest." That's the thoughts that immediately shoot through Brendan's head when Tom Fassbender asks him, "Do you disagree with me?" And
yes,
if you don't see that those are the thoughts going through his head, and he immediately says no, I don't disagree with you. That is a flip-flop from his first answer. It completely nullifies and voids the control question in any meaningful way, and yet they're all still pointing to it like it's good evidence. And using it, the Seventh Circuit Court is using it to bolster their decision,
yes,
misrepresenting it, and also some other facts about actual exonerations and false confessions. Another statistic that they misrepresented to bolster their decision. Why were they bolstering so much, do you think, the Seventh Circuit Court majority? Did they perhaps, like the Manitowoc and Calumet County, feel like it was all just weak? And that's why, because that's why Manitowoc and Calumet had to go after Brendan in the first place. Everything was
yeah,
weak. Everything was weak.
correct.
And
Yes,
and because of the weakness of everything, they wanted Brendan to make it more solid and concrete for him, to kind of give him the lead pipe cinch, as it were,
yeah,
with
exactly.
Stephen Avery. And it's the same way with the Seventh Circuit Court. They're misrepresenting the control question, and also another fact regarding the number of exonerations and the number of false confessions and everything, and that it's not actually a quarter of all confessions in murder cases. It's because they played with the math and added to the denominator, which decreased the numerator,
Yes,
of course,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I mean, they're playing with the math. That's what these guys are doing. This is a federal court. This is a federal freaking court, and they're playing with the math, and they're completely trying to tell people that the control question is something that is clearly not. So these things give me cause for concern,
Well,
certainly.
I think the most significant part about the Seventh Circuit majority decision, it was the Seventh Circuit minority response.
Oh yes, the
Uh,
dissent was. Oh yes,
the dissent was just like, I mean,
amazing.
amazing, amazing. Are we talking about two courts here? Um,
Yeah.
but I've never, I mean, not that I'm experienced at listening to these things, but when I read that and what was said there, I thought, oh my God, that was just awful. Or good in the sense of what we hope, but it just goes to the heart of why the majority decision was so poor.
Yeah.
Um,
And Judge Robner's
and
plea for other judges to really start paying attention and start looking into the statistics of the wrongful convictions that is being shown
yes,
plainly by the Innocence Projects. And the Innocence Projects have to fight an uphill battle to get their convictions overturned. They don't have the power really to take on states, because each individual state's going to have somewhat unlimited resources to fight with them. So they have to stick to only cases that they can prove with like DNA or things like that, because otherwise everything else would be a waste of their resources. So trust me when I say the number of wrongful convictions that the Innocence Projects are writing is minimal compared to the actual amount of wrongful convictions that are out there. Their hands are tied.
In fact, I saw a report. I think it was this week. Forgive me, I can't remember from where, but that I think the wrongful conviction innocent community have had exonerations for I think around 2,500 people so far, and they estimate that the total number of innocent people in jail in prison in the US is about 60,000.
Right. Yeah.
60,000.
Yeah.
Out of a prison population of over 2 million, 60,000 people are in there who didn't commit the crimes that they were charged with.
Right.
It just shows you, one, the extent of the problem, and secondly, the limited resources that are available to try to get them out. We've got 2,500 out, which is fantastic, of course, but that represents only about 3% of. About 3% of those that are in there. So,
right.
If I got that number right, yeah, something like that, yeah.
So absolutely. But I mean, I'm just saying that these judges or courts are like trying to act like it's not a problem. Well, DNA is showing us, and that's kind of what. You still there? Crud. There we go. Whoa, call ended. Hello.
Hey, mate. I lost you you went frozen on me.
Yeah, so so did you, and then right before you hung up, it unfroze. It was weird.
Oh, right. Okay. I've just got to get my sound back correctly. Are we right now?
I hear you.
Yep, I hear you too. Oh, you probably can't see me.
Yeah, I think I see seat. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh, you'll cut and paste that.
So I think I was talking about the fact that DNA is showing us what's going on. DNA is proving to us where the mistakes occur. Because when somebody is freed by DNA, you can go back and look at the case and go, oh yeah, it's because this case is a shit show. Look at it. It's an absolute shit show. Look at it. And that's how we're able to learn and see the indicators now. We can see the indicators of a wrongful conviction without actually getting the DNA. We can know what direction to look in because DNA has taught us enough to know what happens in the cases where wrongful convictions happen. What kind of things are common in those cases.
Yes, that's right.
And it tips us off. It gives us, it earmarks, the page, I guess, for us. And we can go, yeah, there's something to be concerned about right there. So, yeah, certainly. But, yeah, and that's what Judge Robner's trying to hammer home. And oh, dude, Chief Judge Wood is awesome, dude. Did you go through, like, her diagram?
Yes.
Where she's like, every possible thing that Brendan offered in that confession that the majority is saying was damning or whatever, she goes through and says wherever she found in the documents or court testimony that directly disproves it. I mean, and she went through that. I mean, it was like 3 pages or 4 pages, I think, of all this. It was awesome, dude. It was just awesome. I loved Chief Judge Wood was really, really awesome. It just I love her.
Look,
she's cool.
And you look, it's a bit repetitive, but my final thought for the moment at least, on the whole issue of Brendan's so-called confession is the issue associated with there's no other evidence to support what the confession says.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, why there isn't any other evidence. It's because it's false, right? That's why there isn't any evidence.
Exactly.
And without labouring the point, I've said in our discussion about law reform that I believe confessions of themselves should not be held to be valid unless there is supporting evidence to give weight to the facts that are alleged in the confession, because it's just too risky,
Right.
And anyway, I won't build on about that. I wanted to talk to you about the survey that I've had out there in the last few days.
Right.
I'll just give you a little bit of a background to it, and then we can perhaps talk about the results. And a little later on tonight, your time, I'll post them onto the various Facebook platforms. Social media platforms. Yeah.
I was thinking we should maybe try a couple days and give the link to a couple guilters and let them post the link in like the guilty groups. We could even post the link in the innocent guilty group where it's got both sides in it.
Yeah.
I would actually be intrigued to see what happens on this thing with both sides weighing in. I'd be intrigued. I'm also intrigued by just seeing like what mostly supporters, kind of have to say, which is kind of cool. So we'll go through it right now. But I'm thinking I would also like to see it where we let the other side weigh in.
Well, the other side, to the extent the survey was distributed to Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. So to the extent that people of all sides have a...
Was it on SAIG on Reddit?
Yes, that's right.
It was on SAIG?
Actually, I'm not sure whether it was on SAIG.
It was probably on TikTok Manitowoc. And that's why I say, I mean, it might be a fun idea for us to... I can think of one person in particular that can put it in all those places, actually.
Yeah.
SAIG, Stephen Avery is Guilty Facebook group. I know somebody that could probably do it. I'd just be intrigued, but also I'm intrigued to go over the current results with you. So.
Yeah, so let's do that. So the survey was because there's the case, at least the knowledge of the case is fairly advanced now with the active people who are interested in this.
Sure.
So and there are lots of opinions about different pieces of fact and circumstance, and I thought it'd be helpful to collect those opinions, because as a group we don't talk as one. We might talk in chat, if you like, but there's no we're not all sitting in a big room of thousands of people expressing our opinion. I thought the survey would be an opportune way of bringing together all those thoughts and seeing what it meant on relevant questions. And this is a series. This is the first survey of 3. So there'll be 2 more to follow. And they cover the range of questions that people ask and have passion about on the various social media platforms. And when I distribute this, which I will, there's a whole bunch of preliminary information that people need to read so they have the proper context for the survey. The surveys are properly, scientific things, if you like, and it's important that they're constructed in a way that gives integrity to what they're trying to do. And if there are limitations, for example, if the distribution audience is closed or tight or not as broad as it might otherwise be, then that's a limitation, and people need to bear that in mind when they look at the results.
Right.
So anyway, I'll go through the questions, and perhaps we can discuss each one as we go along.
I got it opened up too, so we'll go along together.
Yeah, just so you know, we've had a little over 300 or so responses to the survey, which is great. So that gives a high degree of reliability to the numbers.
Right.
So the first question was, do you believe Brendan Dassey is innocent of the crimes that have sent him to prison? And we constructed 4 potential answers, that they were 100% innocent, 100% guilty, not sure but lean towards innocence, and not sure but lean towards guilty. Mm-hmm. So out of those 4 choices, do you believe that Brendan Dassey is innocent of the crimes that have sent him to prison? Approximately 90% have said that they believe he's 100% innocent.
Right.
1% have said that he's 100% guilty. Around about 9% have said they're not sure but lean towards innocence. And again, 1% have said they're not sure but lean towards guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So if you combine the 100% guilty, the 100% innocent and the ones that are not sure but lean towards innocence, they total up 98% of the responses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're probably all that surprised by that number.
No.
But it just gives you, because it's interesting to look at those numbers, because when you go down into the other questions and see that the numbers aren't as sort of so definite, it makes you realize that notwithstanding other issues, which we'll come to, the vast majority by a long shot believe Brendan's innocent.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's absolutely true, Mark, because I know a few people who are on the guilty side of the fence with Stephen.
Yes.
But they're absolutely on the opposite side with Brendan. They think Brendan's 100% innocent, but they believe Stephen's 100% guilty. So there's a lot of people like that. Brendan gets a lot of support. He got all caught up in this MaM thing and kind of gets maybe a little stigma from that. But the fact of the matter is, most people, even a lot of people who believe Stephen's guilty, believe Brendan's innocent, by looking at what happened to him. I mean, it's not shocking to see that kind of a reaction when it comes to Brendan, really.
Yes. And that's partly borne out in question 2, which is the same question, but it relates to Stephen. Do you believe Stephen Avery is innocent of the crimes that have sent him to prison? Again, the same 4 responses of 100 of guilty and not sure and so on. So in Stephen's case, the percentage that believe he's 100% innocent is approximately 80%, 81%. Those that believe...
About 10% lower.
Yeah. Those that believe he's 100% guilty is 2%. Mm-hmm. Those that are not sure but lean towards innocence is a further 16%.
16, yeah.
And those that are not sure but lean towards guilty is a further 1. So if you take the not sure but lean towards innocence plus the 100% innocence, you end up with around about 97%. 96, 97% in favour of Stephen. Okay, so the next question 3 was, in the case of Stephen Avery, do you believe law enforcement acted professionally and ethically at all times and without prior prejudice to Mr. Avery? Right. So here we have just a yes/no response. Well, those who say yes, that is that they acted professionally without prior prejudice, that was approximately 3%. And those that said no, that they did in fact act unprofessionally and unethically and with prior prejudice, was 97%. So, so again, if you think about that in relation to the earlier questions, you realise that notwithstanding some people's views about their guilt or innocence, most people still have the view that the law enforcement acted improperly.
Yeah. That's one thing everybody seems to agree on, and I'll tell you that I cannot tell you how many guilters have framed a statement for me, saying something along the lines of, "Well, the investigation may have been bad or horrible or messed up, but I think they got the right guy." And I mean, I've had that so many times, and I just want to smack my head and just ugh.
Yeah. I know. Okay, so question 4.
But there's a lot of people who believe that the investigation was compromised and not good.
Well, yeah. Gee. So question 4, do you believe that the bones found in the fire pit behind Stephen Avery's garage are those of Teresa Halbach? So this has been a bit of a controversial topic, right?
Oh, yeah, it is.
And by people we know and others. And so the answers to this question, or the potential answers, were yes, they are definitely Teresa's bones, or no, they are definitely not Teresa's bones. Or thirdly, I'm not sure about, I'm not sure whose bones they are.
Right.
There is no clear proof either way. Okay.
Right.
So there's yes, no, or I'm not sure, if I can summarize that way. So the ones who definitely say they're Teresa's bones represent 12% of the responses. Those that say they're definitely not Teresa's bones represent approximately 20% of the responses. And the remainder, the vast majority, 68%, say they just don't know. So 68% say they don't know. It's not clear either way. Which again, that result doesn't surprise me either. So
that was the group. That's the group I was in.
Yeah. So was I. So, okay. So the next question 5. In the case of Brendan Dassey, do you believe agents Fassbender and Wiegert, as part of their interviews, gave full and fair consideration of Brendan's right to special care, as prescribed by the Supreme Court, for juveniles and those with limited intellectual ability? So this is a yes/no response. Did Fassbender
go pretty decisively with Brendan, doesn't it?
Yeah. So only a little over 98% said no. The agents did not give special care.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
And the rest is the mess. So
that's what I mean. I mean, everything goes so decisively with Brendan, whereas people are more on the fence with Stephen. It's like an avalanche with Brendan. Most people just go, no. That is not cool.
Exactly. So question 6 was to do with my dear friend Mr. Kaczynski and co.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the actions of Brendan Dassey's defence attorney Len Kaczynski and his investigator Michael O'Kelly warrant them both being disbarred from practising law? Okay. So they're basically
was just an investigator, but I think he should not be so involved with court cases in the future. He's far too emotional.
But he's not a lawyer. I realise that. I use that because I didn't want to kind of.
No, I know you're grouping them together, which is cool.
Complicate the question, but I think this does, and I'll come to the answer just quickly in a second. But it goes to the issue of professional conduct. His professional conduct, whether he's a lawyer or not, he's acting in giving evidence in a court of law under oath and doing things. His professional conduct was just
and ethics were
abominable, and there should be sanctions in my view. But the answer to those questions were, the options were yes, they both should be disbarred or from practicing law, or no, their actions do not warrant any penalty to be imposed on them. Or the third was, I don't know what they did wrong, so I can't respond either way. So nearly 96% said there should be disbarred or actions taken. 1% no, there shouldn't be, and 3% didn't know what they had done wrong. So the main point there is that 96% of respondees said there should have been some sanctions against Kaczynski and O'Kelly.
I can't tell you how frustrating it is for me to know that tool went on to become a judge, and now he's in a sex scandal. It's just like, good grief. Wisconsin has their head so far up there, they need to go have it surgically removed.
Yeah, it's the K. it's the K factor, right? It's the K factor. It's dangerous to be in law and have the letter K at the beginning of your name. So
it seems so.
Okay, so question 7 was: do you believe that any of the Hallbach family members have done anything improper or illegal insofar as their actions surrounding the cases of Stephen Avery or Brendan Dassey? The answers were no, they have not said or done anything improper or illegal, or yes, I believe they have done something improper or illegal, or the last is I'm not sure and therefore I can't give you an answer, basically. I'm paraphrasing. So those that believe that they haven't done anything improper or illegal were 12% of the responses.
Right.
Those that believe yes, they have done or said things improper or illegally was 44% of the responses. And those that say they don't know one way or the other is, again, about 43%. So there's a reasonable chunk, let's just go to the ones who say yes, there's a reasonable chunk, 44% of the responses believe, without naming any particular family members, that there are family members who have done things or said things improperly.
Well, there's only one family member that they really be talking about.
Yeah.
That would be Mike.
Yeah. They're all, you know, there
And
has been
although
some...
I am not willing to go as far as to openly accuse Mike openly, I'm certainly suspicious about him and his actions and his demeanor.
Things about the voicemails and things that concern me with Mike.
The fact that he actually admits to having access to them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, you know, I don't know, openly accuse him of anything either, but you know, his statement in court, which we've talked about before, or not in court but outside court, when he condemns Brendan to because of his confession, but he hadn't even bothered to listen to it himself. I mean,
Yep.
That goes to the heart of where there's a problem there.
Exactly. And I love the fact, because that reporter was just sitting there thinking, like, what is he talking about? You know, let's think about that reporter's question for a second. She's sitting there listening to him say, just pop that tape into blah, blah, blah. Well, the reporter that's sitting over there that's watched it is thinking, I don't think that's what you want people to do. You know, that's probably what she's thinking in her head. Mike, you probably don't want that because people are going to see that thing and they're going to be like, what the hell happened here? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
exactly.
That's why she asked the question. Have you seen it, Mike?
That was pretty intuitive of her. That was very intuitive of her to ask that question.
Yeah.
In that moment on the steps inside the courthouse, you know, it was for her to ask that question.
Knowing what I know now, had I been there, I would have asked him the same question, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anybody that watches that confession actually just goes, "Holy crap!" You know, this is a mess. This is an absolute mess.
The
other thing that kills me, and I don't know, I harp on this quite a bit, but the first story Brendan told, it was the story that remained consistent even after he brushed away the confession and said that he was coerced and that he lied or whatever it was. He went back to telling that one story again, that same story, the story that never changes, the story that's always got the same sequence of events, the same everything, and because he's actually remembering memories from that day when he was actually doing those things, and so the story never changes because he's not trying to think about the previous lie he told. Right? That's the thing. That's why consistent stories matter. Consistent stories matter because when people have inconsistent stories, it's the telltale sign that they are telling a lie because they've told a lie before that they can't remember, or their story doesn't match up over multiple tellings because they're not actually remembering events. They're actually being more influenced by trying to make themselves look less guilty or trying to obscure things or whatever, and their story changes for those reasons. Brendan goes back to telling the same damn story every time, and that is so important and huge, and it should not be ignored. It should be a big point, you know, in all of this, because then you start getting that convoluted train wreck of a confession that they start to painfully extract from him that makes pretty much absolutely zero sense, and I don't know, it's just such a mess. It's I just can't believe that it's allowed. I can't believe that what Kaczynski and O'Kelly were allowed to do, that alone, what Len Kaczynski and O'Kelly did, the fact that wasn't enough to nullify his conviction, to say that he didn't get a fair trial, is kind of shocking. I mean, he was
disgraceful.
Horrible. He did nothing but try to bury Brendan as his defense attorney. How is that? I mean, and then the man's rewarded with a judgeship. It's just like, holy crap! It's like a bizarro world.
Unless I've missed something, I think there was about 6 or so important interviews of Brendan with police and detectives and so on, and in not one of them, not one, was any representative there looking after Brendan's interests, a parent or subsequently his defense attorney. He was totally left on his own for every one of those. So anyway,
they were trying to manipulate him. That was their goal. That's what's obvious in all of this, you know.
Yes.
And they're trying to say, oh, we didn't know, oh, this and that, obscure the facts and tell more lies. but it's obvious that they did not. They were going after Brendan because they felt their case against Stephen was weak. That's proven because after they tried to bully a woman who is a known abuser of alcohol and possibly drugs, Jody, because they couldn't bully her and manipulate her, and she eventually told them, told the jail or whatever not to let them in anymore to talk to her because she was in jail at the time, and then so that blocked them from getting in to see her. Immediately, they turned to Barb and the boys, and
Correct.
Suddenly that's when their focus goes on to the Barb and the boys, and over that weekend. Instead of see, this is what kills me, because we all know that the claim is, oh, they didn't know that he was limited at all. Over that entire weekend, they're sizing up the Dassey boys, and the reason they picked Brendan, the reason why they picked Brendan, is because they knew they could get him to go along with what they wanted. They knew that they could manipulate him, and they knew that they could try to wrap it all up in a pretty little bow. And that it would fly.
Yes.
Well, we're going to see if it flies.
We are indeed. Okay, so I've got a few more of these responses. I apologize, I don't have a whole lot of time left, but I'll try to be concise, but not limiting what we want to discuss. So the next question was, do you believe the RAV4 being held by the state of Wisconsin holds critical evidence not yet revealed by the state and its prosecutors? This has been a big topic of conversation. So those that believe that yes, it does hold critical information and is approximately 84%. Those that say no, there's nothing further to be learned from the RAV4 that is relevant to the case is 3%. And those that say I'm not sure about this issue but see no harm in it being re-examined is further 13%. So basically around 97% either believe there is information with that should be examined or see no harm in it being re-examined. And if there is no problem, what's the problem, if you know what I mean? So
and why
let it be examined.
And if the thing that gives credence to the fact that there's probably still something there is the fact that the case is so desperate, or the state is so desperate to keep it from getting into Zellner's hands. So.
Correct. So question 9 was, do you believe that law enforcement officers have been involved in a deliberate attempt to frame Stephen Avery for the death of Teresa Halbach by planning evidence against him? Those that say no to that question represent 2%. Those that say yes represent approximately 89%. Those who say I'm not sure about this matter, but I'm leaning towards a no framing option was about 1%. And those who say I'm not sure about this matter, but I lean towards a framing option is approximately 8%. So you've got around about 96% of people saying that they believe that there was a framing intent in the Stephen Avery matter.
It wasn't aliens, folks.
No, it wasn't. It's a pity, though. It'd be more credible, though, if it was, you know.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I got the new Roswell, Manitowoc, right?
There we go. Hey, they have a proud history. Maybe that's what they need right now to get back their proud history.
Yeah, that's true. So question 10, the final question in the survey of this first survey was, do you suspect that members of the Stephen Avery jury were improperly influenced in their verdicts and traded votes from one charge to another? The answers to that, the first one was, I have no idea whether they were influenced improperly or traded votes. 18% of people said they had no idea. Those who say no, that they weren't improperly influenced or traded votes, in their opinion, was 2%. And those that say yes, there is compelling evidence that the jury was improperly influenced and traded votes was approximately 80%. So, so the purpose, I'll just reiterate, the purpose of this survey is not to state facts as such, but to collate opinions. What is the community out there thinking about relevant issues? What are their thoughts about the things that get floated around all the time, both in the past and in the present? And so the idea of this survey is to give people's own thoughts a benchmark against which they can measure their own thoughts to see what other people in the community, positive or negative, doesn't matter. It's not meant to be a win and a loss situation. It's about gathering evidence. And later today, I think it'll be, I'll release a second survey. Again, very quick. It only takes about 2 or 3 minutes to complete. And I hope people will participate in that as well. And I appreciate all those that did. As I said, we've had around 300 participate in this one.
Right. All right.
So,
look forward to seeing it.
Yes, and thanks very much again, and congratulations on your 500,000 video views.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a massive achievement, so congratulations.
Yeah, it's, you know, if we think about it, let's do the math, about 250 videos. So, yeah, it's a decent amount,
2,000.
you know, average. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
2,000
doing well.
average.
And, yeah, an average of 2,000 per. Now, of course, there's one has 40, another one has 32, another one has 27, another one has 16. You know, so. Yeah. But
you probably only get 1 or 2 people viewing those Capaldi ones, right? They're, you know.
Yeah. There's you know, the thing is, the calls always get it. It's funny because your survey got 300 calls, or your survey got 300 people that did it.
Yeah.
The calls I do with like you and Paul, generally, that's generally what I get in about a 2-day period. A 2 or 3 day period, I get about 300 views on them. It's funny. They end up going higher as the weeks go by, but it's funny within the first, you know, couple days they generally jumped out to about 300. And
yeah, right.
It's kind of funny. So
that's good.
So I wonder if it's maybe the same 300 people who are like the core, you know, nucleus.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting with survey work is that it doesn't take that many to actually get the result, you know. So it's true of surveys generally. You could survey 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people in the US and get a generally good view about a particular issue that is reasonably representative of the population as a whole.
right.
So that's why the survey design is important, to make sure there's no anomalies in the design. But anyway, I thought this exercise would be worthwhile, and it'll be out there on the social media platforms later today, and along with, or not immediately, but along with the second survey. So that's it from me.
Okay, buddy.
Thanks again, and you take care.
Okay, well, you be looking forward to the call I'm going to be doing with Georgina probably tomorrow.
Oh, yes,
tomorrow
that will
or
be great.
Saturday. So
we're
going to hear from another land from beyond the American shores. So that's another thing that I'm happy to be able to do with these calls is to, number one, I get to talk to you, who's over representing Australia. I get to talk to Mr. Capaldi, who represents, you know, from Great Britain. And it'll be a lot of fun to talk to Georgina, who is from Holland. I'm sorry I misspoke in my last video. I believe I said she was from Denmark. Terribly, terribly sorry. So allow me to correct that. She's from Holland. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely great to talk to her. And I'm eager to talk to anybody else that isn't from the U.S. I'm keen to showcase the world interest. In this case. So for anybody out there who just heard me say that, and you can think of a few people who might be interested who are from outside the United States, let me know. Leave a comment down below. If you know who I am, message me, whatever it is, you know. So all right. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, my friend.
My friend. Yes.
Take care.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.